I'm Alex Pault, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Today, let's take a look at a piece that I recently got back from the Accutron doctor in Japan, and that is the Omega Speedsonic. Now, the Omega Speedsonic is actually twice a moon watch, a double moon watch, as you would say, because not only is it from the Speedmaster family, which moon watch, but it's also got an Accutron movement in it, which also went to the moon. Now, I recognize that this is just a variation of a Speedmaster, so it's not a true moon watch, but the Accutron movement inside is just as valid as the ones that are still on the moon functioning today in scientific packages. But other than that, it's got some very funky, retro-futuristic 70 vibes. Let's flip the camera and take a closer look at it. Here we have the Omega Speedsonic. This is the lobster version, as I said. The Speedsonic originally came out in 1973, I believe, and it was obviously presented as a flagship chrono design, not necessarily this specific model. They made different models. This was, I like to call it a retro future design, very, very future, modernistic, but future from the 70s point of view. This is a future that never occurred. Although I would really have liked to see the thought process behind the engineer who designed this. The designer who designed this didn't have to necessarily be an engineer. Could have been a graphic artist. But this is a beautiful piece in its own right. They did make normal-looking ones as well. But the beautiful aspect of the Speedsonic is that it uses the Bulova Accutron tuning fork movement, and to get the chrono, they put it on. They put a Dubois-Deprat chrono module on it. So that's why I was joking that it's a double space watch, because it's not only a Speedmaster variation, which is moon watch. Now, granted, this isn't the version that went to the moon, but it is part of the Speedmaster family, so it shares some of that glow. And secondly, the Bulova Accutron movement also went to the moon. So the movement in this watch is also a movement that went to the moon. And in fact, there are Bulova Accutron movements on the moon still functioning in scientific packages that were left behind during the Apollo program, to show you what a robust and high quality movement the Accutron movement is. Here now, just as a quickie, you see these coils. These are the copper coils that are electromagnets that get the tuning fork, and this is the tuning fork here, to operate. And once the tuning fork is vibrating, the electronics are just to get the tuning fork in motion. Once the tuning fork is operating, there's a little hairspring coming off of the tuning fork with a ruby on the end that pushes a little gear. In fact, when it came out, people wondered how they could do the micro machining so well. The gear teeth are so small you can barely see them, and that little micro hairspring that comes off of the tuning fork pushes that gear directly. So this motion is directly from the tuning fork's motion, which is why it's such a smooth sweep at 360 hertz, which is the resonance frequency of the tuning fork. In fact, if you held it to your ear, you'd hear it humming. I call it my singing watch. I'm actually selling this one because I managed to get my hands on the larger version, and so I'm going to sell this smaller one because this is a 36. I'm going to get the 38, which will be a little bit easier on my 18 plus wrist. Well, I stand corrected. It's actually a 34, pretty much a 34 millimeter watch, just to see. It's still pretty thick though at 12. And that's the movement that's in this watch. And as I said, in order to get it to be a functional chronograph, they attached that clock movement to a Dubois-Duprat chrono module and created this watch. Now, you'll see that it's also a little on the funky side. You'll see it's on the little on the funky side because of, it's in addition to its lobster-shaped bracelet, it's got a semi-mirror finish face, right? So depending on the angle you look at it, it's either going to look black or it's going to be a mirror. So it really is a love-it-hate-it design, like I said, because don't forget, you could get the Speedsonic in other versions, but frankly, one of the reasons that I had originally gotten this Speedsonic was I wanted something from the 70s that looked like it was from the 70s, and the Speedsonic in the lobster variation is about as 70s as you're going to get. The last hurrah for the Accutron movement, frankly, the last hurrah for mainstream funky watch designs. Nobody wants to stick their neck out with funky watch designs today. And, and like I said, it's a combination of both the Accutron and the Speedmaster. So it's in one sense, it's a double moon watch. And the, of course, since it's driven by the nice clean push, and since it's driven by the tuning fork movement, the second hand for the chrono is also beautifully smooth. The only other sweep you're going to get that's smoother is in the Seiko spring drive, and for similar reasons, they use a mechanical movement that's controlled by a quartz electromagnetic clutch. So let's get some sizes, throw it on the arm, and call it a day. Let's zoom out. Wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Tudor Heritage, Tudor Black Bay Heritage, and I'm going to do a review on this soon. I mentioned it in a couple of videos, but I haven't actually talked about it directly. Tudor's a perfect example of my love-hate relationship with Rolex. I really like this watch, and it's interesting how it's being promoted and how it's working in the industry. It really tells you a lot about the marketplace right now. But it still is a phenomenal watch, and it's a great diver, and it looks great and has great wrist presence, and it has that Rolex quality in it. And at a lower price. I mean, this is exactly what Hans Wilsdorf wanted. In fact, that's going to be the title of my review, is the Tudor Heritage Black Bay is exactly what Hans Wilsdorf envisioned from the company. So let's throw the lobster on the wrist. This has a comical wrist presence because of that bracelet. The bracelet just dominates the view. And as you see, the bracelet is engineered to fit the case, or I should say the case is engineered to fit the bracelet, both, right? So the only way you can get away from this bracelet is to go to a NATO, and surprisingly, it works really well on a NATO. Let's take off the lobster bracelet. I'll just show you how that part works. The pin, the spring bar, as you see, is actually on the inside of this shell, and it holds the shell against the inside of the case. So here, I can actually just go in here, pop it off. Come on. Oh, let me not mess with this too badly. There we go. And just pop the spring pin off on the other side. Oh, you all can't see that very well. There we go. And so we've gotten that off, right? And let's just do that very quickly with this side, get it out of the way. Should always have a good pin tool. This is the one that came with my Speedmaster. It's an Omega pin tool, the one that comes in the big case with the Speedmaster. But even a little standard cheap pin tool would do the exact same job. So now, as you see now, you could see how the lugs are just there, just lugs. They're not engineered with the case. They're basically designed to nest within the shells of the bracelet. So it's really hard to match it up with anything, but it does look surprisingly good on a NATO strap. In fact, I wear it default. Where did I put that other pin? It probably fell off the table, so I'm not going to mess with it now. I just want you to see what it looks like with a NATO. Anyway, and there, one pin is enough. Actually, here we go. We'll put it through the bottom. And as you see, the NATO allows you to wear the watch more normally. It sits against the wrist. The watch doesn't, I mean, the bracelet doesn't dominate the watch. It kind of looks like a Speedmaster 3, like this. So I do a whole video on how straps can change the nature of a watch. I encourage you to watch it. And I also encourage you to subscribe, because once I can start live streaming, then we can have these conversations in real time and talk about watches. One more look at the back. Just a pretty watch. I mean, it screams its date. You know, this is obviously a watch from the 70s, but honestly so. So that's the Speedmaster Speedsonic. Thanks for taking the time. Let's turn the camera around and close out the episode. So that was the Omega Speedsonic, a blast from the past, a future that never was, a fun, funky, cool sports chrono with a Dubois-Duprat chronograph module in it. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and please subscribe. It really helps.